I guess I'll take Brian Cole.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? We don't even remember the name of the guy that I picked over.
Our team was awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, so here we go. Lewis Laskin versus
right.
Roy Zhu, round 3 of the Star City Games Open Series here in Dallas, Fort Worth. I'm Gavin Verhey, joined by Big Head Jojo Panuska, and we're bringing you pretty interesting match here. So, can you hand me that necklace over there?
Yeah, absolutely. So here we go. Roy, first of all, has started with a creeping tar pit. Lewis then played a colonnade and passed the turn. Roy then played a preordain and followed it up with some sort of land that comes into play untapped, and Durest.
Yep.
So now we're seeing a Stoneforge Mystic, a Gideon Jura, a Manalik, 2 preordains, a Jace, and it looks like a basic Plains in Lewis's hand.
Yep. And I'm looking over Roy's deck list here. Looks pretty stock. He's playing blue, red, white Cobblade. We haven't seen the red yet, but he's got main deck Arc Trails, which is kind of a cool little addition there for some of the beatdown decks. He's got 1 Deprive and 2 Swords of Feast of Famine. No sort of Body and Minds here. He has his Cunning Spark Mages in the sideboard. Going over to the other side, though, we have Lewis Laskin, who is playing a much different. We talked about Brian Kibler's deck earlier, his Infect deck, and this is way different. Laskin's deck is headlined by Skitherix the Blight Dragon, which is a pretty awesome card to have, I feel. There are no Vat Mothers in it at all, just Skitherix and Phyrexian Crusader.
Oh, we had the names backwards on the thing. Okay, so Lewis played a Duress and took Roy's Jace the Mind Sculptor. And Roy just played a Stoneforge Mystic and searched up a Sword of Feast and Famine.
Seems like a good play these days. That sword is just so powerful. I mean, untap. It's kind of like Time Walk. It's like take it 2 extra, untap all your lands, discard a card.
Yeah, I love playing it on 5, and that, I believe, is a Plague Stinger. Is it?
No, it's Phyrexian Crusader.
Oh, is that Crusader? Oh, okay.
Yep, there are no Plague Stingers. So Laskin's deck list, for all you at home frothing at the mouth, waiting to see what Laskin is playing. 4 Phyrexian Crusader, 2 Skitherix the Blight Dragon, 4 Jace the Mind Sculptor, 4 Inquisition of Kozilek, 2 Duress, 4 Manalik, 4 Preordain, 2 Go for the Throat, 2 Doomblades, so he's got the split there, 3 Tumble Magnets, 2 Contagion Clasp, 1 Deprived, 1 Stoic Rebuttal, 25 lands, the usual culprits, 4 Tar Pits, 2 Edges, 3 Ink Moth Nexus, and then Darkslick Shores, Drowned Catacombs, Island Swamps rounding things out. Looks like Laskin's serving in with that Crusader there. Out of the sideboard, Laskin has access to Black Sun Zenith, Memoricide, Jace, Beleren. It's kind of a 5th Jace effect. Disfigure, Flash Freeze, Duress, Tectonic Edge, Go for the Throat, and 2 Corrupted Conscience, which is kind of an awesome card. You can use that on a lot of really sweet things. And looks like Laskin goes for the Go for the Throat on that Stoneforge Mystic.
They both have Tectonic Edges out right now. Seems like you would probably take out the Creeping Tar Pit there. Wait, do we have the names backwards again?
So.
Oh, okay. What? Okay, that was odd. So the angles are okay. A lot of times when the angles, like when it cuts to a player, so it's cutting on an opposite. So if it looks like it's on the one player, it's going to actually be on the other.
Yeah, just so when it cuts to Roy Zhu, it'll when it looks like it cuts to Roy Zhu, it'll actually be Lewis Laskin.
Did you notice that?
But yeah.
That when you cut to like when you cut.
But
okay.
But bear with us for this round.
Yep.
First round on camera. So yeah, this is a really interesting matchup. You kind of have like
preordained from Lewis.
You have like the Herald of the Format, the blue red white Ka deck against Infect, which is Lewis, the newcomer. Be interesting to see how this matchup goes. I'm sure Lewis has tested it. I would guess that he'd have to believe that it's probably a good matchup for him to play the deck, but we'll see what happens.
Obviously, if he thought playing Callblade would be the right choice over this deck, he would have played something else,
Right. Yeah. If you have a bad.
But of course. He's also the person who in Memphis played the Benzer Spine of Ishsaw deck, so who knows?
You never know what Laskin's going to be gaming with.
It is fun, though, seeing the different decks he's been playing the last couple weeks. So
absolutely, from Jumanji all the way to, and there's the poison counter up on the side. Looks like we revealed Preordained, Manalik, Stoneforge Mystic, Jason Gideon.
Pretty heavy glare on Lewis's side, so forgive me if we have some difficulties.
It looks like that's Inquisition of Kozilek from Lewis.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, there it is. His shadow of his head over it. Helped us out.
Inquisition indeed.
Takes the preordain.
As Brian Kibler said in his article this week, we better break out the poison counter boxes here at SCG Live, and no exception. First feature match already have 4 poison on the board.
You know it.
Looks like we're racking it up to 6. It is pretty tough for that blue for the Cowboy deck to deal with the Phyrexian Crusader.
He did just draw a Day of Judgment. That is one way to deal with it, I guess.
And,
but Lewis has access to counter spells, so he's running the Mana Leak. So
Lewis has a Mana Leak and Deprive and a Stork Rebuttal, so access to 6 main deck counter spells.
And he Mana Leaks a Stoneforge Mystic. Oh, he's just gonna keep turning that Crusader sideways, isn't he? Seems like it. Roy is stuck on 3 mana. It seems to be a tough way to go for him.
Lewis also stuck on 3 mana, though.
Right, but he's got the Crusader.
But the man with the creatures without Roy found his land.
Roy got his land, so he's probably going to have to day here. But if Lewis has the counter spell, then I guess it's pretty much game.
Well, I mean, that'll be up to 8 poison.
I thought he was already on 8.
I
think he's already on 8, honestly.
Jace. And so the Crusader comes back.
Jace does resolve, so.
But that's also a Contagion clasp by seeing Lewis's hand there. So even the nice thing about the clasp is it gives you such inevitability, because what'll happen is even though Roy might be able to get back in the game, you start fate stealing your opponent, brainstorming. If you can't deal with that clasp, you're dead in 4 activations, period. And it really provides the deck some nice reach. And yeah, so that's what Lewis does. He opts to go, I'm just going to play this clasp and kill you in 4 turns. That's all I need to do, or 2 turns, if he's indeed on 8 poison.
Attention Magic players, we have 1 spot remaining in a $10 draft. If you'd like to get your draft on now,
we're double checking the poison count.
To the side event stage, and we'll get you signed
Here's
up.
a Squadron Hawk.
No poison for Lewis Laskin, I can tell you that much.
He has not played a Vat Mother, and he doesn't have them.
Yes,
so
it'll be very difficult for Lewis to rack up a poison counter in this match.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, well, I don't know about Vat Mother. It gives you a poison counter return. I'm like, well, if you're not playing against poison and you can't kill him in 10 turns with a 4/5, you're doing something wrong.
As long as you don't run against Ali Antrazi's deck and he drops Contagion Engine on you. All right, so back to the game. Laskin, Doomblades away, Squadron Hawk there.
Okay, so we are confirmed at 8 poison.
All right, 8 poison, yeah. So now Laskin's pretty much got the game on lock. He just activates that clasp and then activates it again on his turn, and Roy is done for. There you go. That shows you the power of the clasp right there. You just play it, and it's kind of like a burn spell that just keeps on giving.
Absolutely. Did you actually hear about the changes that they made to the rules regarding Two-Headed Giant?
Yeah, that's really interesting. How now, for those who don't know at home, Two-Headed Giant now requires 15 poison instead of 10 poison, which is a great change in my book. At the pre-release, there were all kinds of slaughters happening with poison counters.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a little brutal. I didn't have that big of a problem with it. Like we say on UMTG Taps, as always, stop bitch and start brewing.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, if you need to prevent 10 poison counters, just make sure you prevent 10 poison counters,
Yeah, I mean, if you make the finals the PTQ, like, you might as well just win. Like, why bother losing?
Right, exactly. So Roy scoops him up.
Yeah.
Lewis had it on board, so...
Yep, looks like Lewis took that down pretty handily. I mean, they both got mana screwed, but the impossible to deal with Crusader, save for Day of Judgment, was and Jace was pretty good for Lewis there, and then Contagion Clasp just gave him the inevitability he needed to take that down. They're going to the board here. So what do you think we're going to see boarded in? On Roy's side, he's got Baneslayer Angel, Flash Freeze, which is obviously not coming in, Cunning Spark Mage, Journey to Nowhere, Divine Offering, Inferno Titan, and Pyroclasm. Do you think we might see some Divine Offerings here just to deal with those Contagion Clasps?
That could be very possible. I mean,
draft number 1.
They're pretty nasty.
$10 draft number 1. Please
Yeah, those I could definitely see that happening. Otherwise, I mean, Pyroclasm doesn't do anything against Phyrexian Crusader, so that's not going to do much. Cunning Spark Mage doesn't seem that hot. Baneslayer Angel is a nice little card.
Life gain's irrelevant, but it does eat up pretty much everything that he has.
Right. I mean, even Skithiryx doesn't do anything.
Exactly.
I mean, for those who, it's an interesting interaction how it works. But when Skithiryx bashes into Baneslayer, even if you regenerate, regeneration moves the creature from combat, so no damage is dealt from infects. So the Baneslayer Angel won't even shrink from a Skithiryx hit. It will lose counters from Phyrexian Crusader, or actually, it can't block Phyrexian Crusader. So that's worth noting. Good old protection from white. On Lewis's side of the board, we have Duress, which are almost certainly coming in. Another Tectonic Edge, which is also almost certainly coming in. Jace, which we'll likely see, and then maybe Memoricide. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Memoricide come in. I don't know if it's really the card that you want in this matchup. But if Lewis feels like it's super crucial, if he feels like getting rid of their swords is crucial, or getting rid of all their hawks, if you can keep the hawks down, I mean, that could be the right way to go.
Yeah, for sure. Then it also gives him a look at what he boarded in. So that's always an added bonus of search through their deck and seeing what they changed, what they took out, what they added.
Right.
Never anything wrong with that.
Right. I mean, you get to know their entire configuration, which is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, you get to know if they're red, if they have bolts, if they have if they have condemns you should worry about.
I mean, because Roy's on red. And did we see any red mana that whole game?
We saw Scalding Tarn.
But we didn't see any,
correct
red mana. We only saw the fetch. I mean, even the blue-white runs the Scalding Tarns.
Right.
So.
Exactly. So it's very possible that you might just be like, all right, well, it seems like blue-white to me, but there's more here than what meets the eye.
Transformers.
The more you know. Yeah, so a little bit of sideboarding happening there. Those Orc Trails probably came out for Roy. Those Lightning Bolts probably came out for Roy. On Lewis's side, I don't know if we'll still see Tumble Magnet in his deck after sideboarding. Might cut down on some of the removal, but killing those Stoneforge Mystics is so crucial you probably can't afford to. And you just go up on discard. I think that's probably key. Man, Contagion Class with Planeswalkers is just so awesome. I mean, it can really make your Jace the Mind Sculptors do a lot of work.
Yeah, so he's got Inferno Titan in his board. Sure. God, I mean, well, I guess Journey doesn't even work. God, his whole sideboard's just kind of dead to Crusader, right?
Crusader's going to be a rough card for you to deal with.
I think that the Crusader's going to be a rough card for any of the blue-white decks to deal with all weekend, let alone the Boros decks.
Yeah, I mean, it might be time to break out those narcolepsies.
Huh. Wow. That's a card we haven't heard in a while. Remember, that's still standard legal.
Yeah,
there's a lot of cards. Isn't it funny? Like you go back, like, oh my god, that's still in standard.
Yeah, like I was thinking the other day, you can, like Amiria the Sky Rune is still legal in standard. Like, who knew? You could play World Queller in standard. Who knew? Like,
I picked up a random Lighthouse Chronologist the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, that card's from Rise. That's totally legal.
Sure.
It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I remember last year, Narcolepsy saw a bunch of play in sideboards of like the blue-green decks. We haven't really seen much of play lately, but deal with Phyrexian Crusader could be a card to go to. So it looks like Roy has a Seachrome Coast here, and Laskin has a pretty typical turn 1 discard spell. With 8 in his deck, it's going to be a common play for him.
Oh yeah. Seems pretty good.
It's Inquisition of Kozilek, I believe. And Roy flops down a hand of Tectonic Edge, Mountain, Baneslayer Angel, Mana Leak, Lightning Bolt, and Stoneforge Mystic. Interesting, so he did leave the Lightning Bolts in.
Yeah, huh.
Maybe he feels like they could pick off
Inkmoth Nexus, maybe?
Inkmoth Nexus?
It's not going to do anything to Skitherix. It doesn't do anything to Phyrexian Vat Mother.
You could do 2 to knock down a Vat Mother, potentially, but maybe he just didn't have enough sideboard out.
I don't know. That seems weird, but...
So Laskin takes the Mystic, and Roy has another Mystic, which is just what he was looking for. You know how that draw always works.
Must be nice.
Interesting to note is Roy does not have a Basilisk Collar in his deck, so otherwise, like maybe I could see the Spark Mages as just a way to lock down Skitherix.
Right.
But there is no collar in his 75 to use this advantage. So Preordained from Laskin here. So Roy's only equipment he can find is Sword of Feast and Famine, and that's what that Stoneforge Mystic found. Laskin goes for Dress again to continue to rip apart Roy's hand. Those 8 discard spells.
Keep tearing it up.
I mean, between all the discard spells and the preordains and the card draw, like Lewis has a really good way to keep Roy on his back foot. And yeah, I mean, this card is awesome against Stoneforge Mystic because they go Stoneforge, and you're like, whatever, just pluck the card you found out of your hand. You have a 1/2.
Yeah, Squire.
And Squire is not so threatening, especially against Phyrexian Crusader.
I'm gonna make a prediction early on here today, and I'm gonna say, if these decks keep doing well, Phyrexian Crusader is going to be the card to talk about this weekend. I mean, that's just such a huge card. I've been thinking about it for weeks, honestly, because there was lots of Boros, and there was lots of, like, white creatures turning sideways in most of the decks that were being played. And I was just like, wow, Phyrexian Crusader just kind of answers all that, but then you got to play Poison, which, a lot of people were kind of shying away from. But I've been saying for a while that poison, is nothing to ignore. It's obviously Mark Rosewater's been pushing it pretty hard. If he, he's been pushing it really hard. So
yeah,
you figure he would make it at least competitive.
Yeah, well, I mean, plus, I think that the Crusader is an okay card on its own. I mean, it can be used offensively to good effect, and then, maybe it has to take 10 turns to kill, but it's still pretty powerful. If you have those, or 5 turns to kill, but if you have those 5 turns, like, why not? Looks like Lewis is double Tectonic Edging Roy's lands here, dropping down to just 2. For those who don't know, that's a little trick. Tectonic Edge is checking if there are 4 lands on the other side of the battlefield. It only happens when you activate the ability. So if you responded to Tectonic Edge with another Tectonic Edge, you can drop your opponent's land count down twice, even if they only have 4 lands in play. It doesn't check on resolution.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Mirror Crusader have a lot of success. And it's more, that was a little more obvious. Double strike is good. Yeah, protection from black and green is good. Putting a sword on it is good. And dealing normal damage is good, but it took a little while for Phyrexian Crusader to catch on. But this could be the weekend. You might want to go start searching for your Phyrexian Crusaders now.
Well, the one major problem with the Crusader, the main obstacle for it, obviously this deck has access to things that take the equipment right out of Roy's hand, but Sword of Feast and Famine is clearly the more popular of the swords, probably the most popular equipment in Magic right now, other than GT or something. But obviously the card's dead to, or the Phyrexian Crusader can be blocked by anything that is holding a sword.
Well, unless it's red or white, which coincidentally happen to be a pretty high number of sword holders.
That is true. It's very true.
So it looks like the player's kind of playing draw go here. When Lewis made that Tectonic Edge play, he no doubt had a lot of lands in his hand and was just thinking, all right, well, I've got plenty of time. Because of all these lands, it's a control mirror. If he gets mana screwed here, I could just pull ahead, and it looks like that's kind of what's going on.
This was after a double Tectonic Edge from Roy, and now Lewis has more lands. So
yeah, Lewis has more lands. He dropped a Contagion Clasp, killing off that Stoneforge Mystic, and here comes Phyrexian Crusader, and that Contagion Clasp is going to cut down the number of turns that Lewis needs. Jace is going to pose a threat for Lewis here, though. Picks up that Crusader, and that's definitely going to be an issue. With no poison on Roy yet, there's no inevitability. Lewis has to find a way to pick off that Jace, so it's going to easily run away with this game. Stoic Rebuttal sitting in Lewis's hand, but he didn't quite have the mana to activate it last turn. Lewis drops down Phyrexian Crusader again. If Roy will either brainstorm here and just try and find an answer, or just bounce that Crusader and buy another turn. Yep, and he just bounces the Crusader.
Yes, he's going to keep doing that until he runs out of counters. Or
yeah, I mean, often what I do with Jace in this situation is I go -1, pick up your creature, -1, pick up your creature, and then when I get to go down to 1 counter, I just go brainstorm, try and find an answer. If I don't, they're probably going to attack Jace anyway.
Right.
And
makes sense.
And you get to brainstorm at the cost of then not having to tap 3 mana on their turn. Okay, so Roy did bring in the Baneslayer Angels, and here's Baneslayer, and it's going to be good at closing out this game. We'll see how much removal Lewis left in. Looks like, I think I see a Doomblade in Lewis's hand, which is going to be just what he's looking for here. All right, Lewis tapping 3, probably Return of the Crusader, yeah. And then, Doomblade the Angel.
Seems like a pretty strong play.
Yep, and so now Roy has to decide what he's going to do with his Jace. Is he going to bounce? Okay, so he just opts to bounce that Crusader back. And here comes Jace the Mind Sculptor again. So Roy's decision to bounce with the Jace is tempered by the fact that he had a second Jace to play out.
Yeah.
That is always a good call. You get 2 activations without Jace that turn that way. You get a little extra bonus for that 4 mana. And now Roy has a chance to reload up on cards, find another way to deal with that Crusader. And Lewis is now the one falling behind. If Roy had some poison counters on him, the game might be different, but right now the Contagion Clasp is not doing a whole lot.
No, he can, speed along his own death if he wants to keep proliferating the Jace. But I don't think he wants to do that. I think he wants to try to pull back into this game.
Lewis enlists Kozilek to inquire for him, but the thing about Jace, he's pretty good at beating discard spells. Not only do you go up cards, but you can hide the cards that you want on top of your library.
My guess is he doesn't take the lightning bolt here.
It could be, although if his plan is to get in with Inkmoth Nexus, the lightning bolt could actually be crucial.
That's a good point.
I mean, right now Lewis really needs to get some poison counters in there. Okay, so he makes him discard Mana Leak.
All right, players, we have one spot left in a commander box.
Down comes
Crusader.
Yeah. Here comes Crusader.
If you would like to come play some side events, come on and get signed
Roy's
up.
going to fetch up with his Arid Mesa here end of turn.
Shuffling his deck off from the Jace. Nice little feature of having the fetch lands there.
Definitely. Yeah, a lot of players don't quite get that like some of the newer players don't really get the interaction there. You know what I mean? Like, why would you run like even like if blue white? Like, why would you run like a red blue fetch or a red white fetch? You know, some players just don't get the interaction. So we have headphones here. We're kind of testing them out.
All right.
We haven't had them the last couple of events we've done, but you can definitely hear through them. But I don't know if I don't think we're actually either the players aren't saying much or we're just hearing the crowd noise from our microphones, because we can definitely hear our microphones. But anyway,
All right. And,
always playing around here. So we got Gideon drops down, and it's probably going to plus to him.
Yeah, and Roy is looking to gain control of this game. Gideon, despite being white, is still a pretty good answer to that Phyrexian Crusader. Gideon will take a lot of infect damage.
Absolutely.
And then maybe close off the game if that's where the game ends up going. But all right, so Lewis offers to trade his Jace and deprive from Roy the Singleton Deprive. Both players have just the one, and the deprive from Roy sends that Jace into the graveyard, furthering Roy's lead.
So now Roy's going to brainstorm off of the Jays.
Yeah, this is a rough position for Laskin here. Laskin has really needed his 6th land for a long time because he's got Stork Rebuttal in his hand, which he could have used to counter a number of things. Could have countered the second Jace, could have countered that Gideon, but or could have countered the Deprive on his Jace. But without that 3rd land, Roy has pretty much dominated this game. Yep, and Doomblade from Lewis, killing down that Colonnade. Now, granted, Lewis still has some action left. I mean, those Planeswalkers are threatening, but if you can just manage to find a way to deal with what Roy is doing, you know, he has the inevitability on the board in the form of Contagion Clasp. The big issue for me right here is not that Jace, but that Gideon.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to be...
This whole back and forth here with the Gideon and the Phyrexian Crusaders is going to go on forever until Roy basically decides to win or Lewis finds an answer for it.
Right. And Lewis does not have any really good answer for Gideon in his entire 75 cards, unless Roy decides Gideon wants to be a 6/6, which seems unlikely. That Gideon is going to be very hard-pressed to leave the battlefield. I mean, even if he drops in Skitherix and gives it haste, Gideon still survives, and Roy might just be sitting on some removal. Although it's worth noting that Day of Judgment, not so good against Skitherix. You can definitely just regenerate. Wrath of God, it is not.
It's true. Lewis is digging for an answer here, living on a prayer. He doesn't have any creeping tar pits or anything like that? I guess not.
Yep, Phyrexian Crusader serves in. For those of you just joining us, I'm Gavin Verhey here in the booth with Big Head Joe Panuska, bringing you live coverage of Round 3 of the Star City Games Open Series here in Dallas-Fort Worth. We're watching a match with Lewis Laskin playing Blue-Black Infect. His own take on the deck, not quite Kibler's. He's got some Skitherix the Blight Dragons and a couple other cool things in there. On your right, Lewis is a known player from the Star City circuit, something quite a few people, a name people probably recognize. On the left is a newcomer, Roy Zhu. He's playing a blue-red-white Cobblade, his own take on the deck.
And not Zoo.
He is not playing Zoo, as it were. He's got some main deck Arc Trails, which are a nice little addition. Other than that, things that you would mostly expect. No Basilisk Caller, but for the most part, expected. Lewis picked up the first game, but things not looking so good for him here. Roy has an active Jace and Gideon, and all Lewis has got going on for him is that Contagion Classman Phyrexian Crusader. He did play a Creeping Tar Pit, which will help him out.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that'll be a good. Or at least hopefully he'll get that Gideon off the board. But at this point, Roy probably has another Gideon in his hand. I'm gonna guess. I mean, I think he's only running 2 in the deck though.
Yeah,
most of the decks these days are running 3. So I was kind of surprised to see only 2 in the deck. But
even if Lewis has a way to back out of it, Roy's starting to get ahead. He's got Celestial Colonnade.
Okay, well he keeps the Jace off. He just cast a Jace.
Right.
So the Jace is no longer a threat to win. But it looks like he is taking Colonnade beats every turn. So at this point.
And so that Colonnade is going to keep coming, and Lewis has double Creeping Tar Pit now. So next turn, if he cracks in with both Tar Pits and the Crusader, he can finally get rid of that Gideon that's been a thorn in his side. The question, however, is with Roy has access to that Colonnade, if Lewis doesn't have a removal spell here, Roy's definitely ahead in this race. Oh, and here comes Jace number 3 from Roy.
Alrighty, that one gets rebuttal.
Stoic rebuttal. Lewis finally has the opportunity to use the 3-mana Scars of Mirrodin counter spell.
And probably a very good time for it too, because even if he can come up, he kept him off of activating the Colonnade, which is good.
All right, and so Day of Judgment is going to knock off that Crusader, and Gideon serves in. So Gideon will drop Lewis down to 9, but looks like Lewis has double Creeping Tar Pit, if I see his board correctly. So he can crash in and deal with that Gideon. Although Roy does have Scalding Tarn up, and Lewis knows Roy has Lightning Bolt in his hands.
Very true.
So unless Lewis finds a way to pluck out that Lightning Bolt, those Creeping Tar Pits, only one of them is going to end up making it there. Alex Bertoncini just walked by. He picked up his round 3, moving on to 3-0 on the day.
We got 9 rounds here. How many players do we have?
We don't have a player count yet. I'll ask on the sidelines real fast.
I know it was something around, I think it was like 340 some. $342 players here this weekend.
342 players.
For day 1.
Healthy turnout for Standard, and I'm sure we get a healthy turnout for Legacy as well.
So down comes Skithiryx.
All right, so Skithiryx is a strong card for Lewis. I mean, it's going to do quite a bit, but will it do enough?
Does not die to Bolt.
Does not die to Bolts. It will outpace Gideon, and when it finally starts getting through, that effect damage is going to be brutal. Roy thinks, and he's like, all right, well, swinging with Gideon doesn't do anything, so I'm just going to have to go +2 and soak up some damage from Skithiryx here. And Skithiryx is a card that Brian Kibler did not have, a couple other blue-black Infect players did not have, but it is doing good work for Lewis. The game was not looking so strong for him, but the Skithiryx might be the card that turns things around.
Bringing him right back into it.
Especially if that Jace resolves.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens here. And that Jace resolves. That is brutal for Roy. What once looked to be a commanding position backed by Gideon and Jace is now slowly faltering, and Lewis has Jason listed on his side of the battlefield now.
You have to deal with 3 of Roy's own Jaces. And finally gets one of his own to stick. And the duress comes down. It's going to take that bolt out of his hand.
At the very least, yeah, I'll take that bolt. All right, so Roy just trades the bolt with the Jace. Seems like a fine call. And Divine Offerings on the Contagion Clasp. And then nothing there. Roy has thrown some blanks. No wonder Lewis has that opportunity to get back into the game.
Absolutely. And
all right, Inkmoth next is down for Lewis, so building up his Infect force. And Skithiryx knocks Gideon down to 4 counters. And Phyrexian Crusader joins the fray. So now Lewis posing 6 points of power, not in man lands. He's got 2 Creeping Tar Pits and an Inkmoth Nexus back.
It's worth noting that Lewis does not have regeneration mana up right now for the Skithiryx.
What is that land? Is that not
it's an Inkmoth Nexus and something else.
I think it's a Creeping Tar Pit.
Right, but it costs 2 black to regenerate. and he kills it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he took it down with the Gideon. I guess figuring Gideon's about to hit the yard anyway. So
Yeah.
he's gonna.
That's always kind of dangerous, because when your opponent makes a misplay like that, you're kind of wondering, well, he must want me to do this. Maybe he thinks that he wants me to do this, so he's going to be able to get away with it. And
Right.
there's all these mind games. I mean, the question for Roy is, why would he leave that Inkmoth Nexus untapped? Like, what is so crucial about that Nexus?
Right.
And maybe we're going to see Lewis block here, save 4 damage from the Celestial Colonnade. Looks like the players are checking life totals. A little bit of confusion.
We've got 9 for Lewis and 17 for Roy.
All right.
And we believe that's correct.
All right.
So now
And
he's
here
gonna-
comes Tar Pit.
Yep.
Lewis thinking if he wants to do anything else with his mana here.
I wonder if he just tries to beat in with the tar pits at this point and maybe leave the Crusader and the Inkmoth Nexus up and just deal real damage.
Yeah, I mean, Roy did not +2 Gideon on his last turn, so Lewis is free to attack wherever he wants. If he wants to serve that tar pit toward Gideon and the Crusader at Roy, he is certainly fine doing that.
That's true. Yeah, you can take out the Gideon with the 1 tar pit, and then he can.
Yeah, I mean, taking care of that Gideon has got to be priority number 1. You're just buying time away from Lewis, and Lewis is at a measly 5 life, and he's facing down 2 Celestial Colonnades.
Yeah, it's
Granted,
pretty big.
Roy can't activate both the next turn, but still, it's a danger zone. All right, so yeah, Gideon gets Creeping Tar Pitted, and 3 poison counters to Roy here. And another Crusader off the top from Lewis. That means that that's 5 poison damage coming through next turn, which would, if all of it connected, would bring Roy down to 8. Boy, that Colonnade is...
He doesn't have enough mana to activate both.
He cannot activate both, but if one of them gets through, that'll drop Lewis down to 1 life. And then just a matter of dealing the last point of damage. 3rd Colonnade from Roy here. Alright. Here comes Colonnade.
1 life.
Lewis goes to 1. Alright. Lewis draws his card. Figures out what he's going to do. He's sitting at 1. How is he going to take down this game?
He's not going to be able to deal more than 5 poison, looks like, if he had... He still has the Inkmoth,
I mean,
right?
the Inkmoth Nexus can block the Colonnade.
Right, and it's going to buy him. It'll buy him a turn at least.
Alright, so it looks like Roy has the land. I'm pretty sure Lewis knew he had it. Roy cracks. And all that mana flood that happened to Roy in the mid game is looking like it's going to pay off, as long as Lewis does not have a removal spell. Alright, Roy taps, thinks about it, making sure he's not missing anything.
That Colonnade got in last
Eric
turn, right?
McNeely to the judge station,
okay.
please.
Lewis did not have the
McNeely to judge
removal
station.
spell, and we're going to game 3 here. Roy takes it on the back of 2
Alright.
Celestial Colonnades.
Hard to believe that was just game 2. That game had gone on for quite a while, and time is quickly dwindling in the rounds.
Yeah. Do we have I can do a quick check on how much time
No, I wasn't paying attention. I kept
The players are going to be headed in for a...
time. We have 16 minutes left, so.
yeah, there's so 16 minutes left, but with the 2 decks
Yeah, I
like
actually
these...
forgot that you need black.
Yeah, I mean, after that second game, who knows? Could go a while.
I've never played from
Attention players, we've got some side events that are very close to filming. If you'd like to come join in and get started, we have 1 spot left.
Frank Lepore asks if we can get a 3rd microphone in the booth for my beard. My beard does not speak, it only controls me with mind control.
Fit your events and come on up and get
So-
signed in.
That's about it.
Players jabbering a little bit, just preparing for what I'm sure is going to be a tense 3rd game.
In advance, just so you know, this is my friend, and he's just going to troll us all weekend, so don't take any offense to anything he says. My buddy Noyan chiming in all caps. Kibler had Skitherix dude read his Tuesday article and stop saying wrong stuff.
Well, I have his article open right now, and there were certainly some Skitherixes, or there were no Skitherixes in Brian Kibler's deck. I'm looking for the legendary creature column. There is all.
Tiaku on Twitter says, how bad would have Corrupted Conscience been on that Baneslayer?
Nobody run deck check.
Would have been pretty bad for Roy
Oh,
to do
I'd
there.
love to see that, but would have been awesome. Yeah, Phyrexian Crusader is a really good card right now, for sure. So people are asking about any deck techs on the way. I imagine they'll get one up on one of the blue-black decks.
Yeah, Glenn mentioned that he had done one on Lewis already.
Every time, right?
And that it'd be coming up sometime soon. All right, so Laskin leads off with turn 1 discard spell.
It's an Inquisition to Kozilek there. Right down the hand, got a Spell Pierce, Mana Leak, Preordain,
I'm going to take
Day of Judgment,
your
some lands, and a card I can't see. We'll take a white card. Possibly a Squadron Hawk. So, Roy plays a Celestial Colonnade to pass the turn, and Lewis comes back with an island, I believe that is.
That's what it's looking to be.
Yep.
For those of you who want to see Lewis's deck list, the deck tech with him, should be up within an hour or two on StarCityGames.com. So check out the event coverage, and Glenn Jones has done a nice little deck tech there, and we'll be featuring Lewis's deck and maybe some other decks over the course of the day.
Roy passes back.
All right, so playing the control game now. Who's going to tap mana first? Colonnade from Roy.
Yep. Lewis drops his Tectonic Edge and passes back. That's one way to deal with those colonnades that threatened him last game.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting to note is Lewis cracked both of his tech edges early that game, and he was done in by colonnades, so it might be a little more disciplined this game. I mean, not saying that his play last game was wrong, but saving those tech edges could have made the difference if he had just targeted his colonnades.
Absolutely.
So Preordain from Roy, the ubiquitous blue common, is going to dig him a little bit deeper into his deck as long as it resolves. Yep, and it resolves.
And Roy's going to play a Seachrome Coast, tapped. And he passes back.
It's that struggle for colonnades.
Looks like he learned his lesson now. He just double tech edged. I think that was 2 colonnades actually. Both got taken out.
Right. That seems to be exactly what Lewis is going for. Not only did he double tech edge, but he took out 2 colonnades. And for those who weren't watching the last game, the trick there is tech edge checks on resolution, or sorry, checks on activation, not on resolution. So if you activate both tech edges, one in response to another, when your opponent only has 4 lands, it can take out 2 lands, even though one drops him down to 3.
So. Lewis cast a second Inquisition of Kozilek, so he could take out that Stoneforge Mystic there, which is essentially a 2-for-1. And he's seen some pretty threatening stuff here in the hand. He's seen a Baneslayer Angel. It looks like it could be a Squadron Hawk under that Day of Judgment. It's a little hard to tell. And he's going to choose the Mana Leak. So he must really want to get his spells to resolve here.
Well, I mean, also he knows that Roy is strapped for mana.
True.
And you know, if he forces Roy to tap low and not be able to counter anything, Lewis can get the edge here. Crusader, too, can easily take things for him.
Absolutely. And here comes a sort of Feast of Famine off of a Stoneforge Mystic. That does resolve, despite Lewis having 2 mana up.
So the sword safely goes into Roy's hand, but a discard spell from Lewis could easily pluck it.
That was like a go for the throat there. It's going to get Spell Pierce.
Looked like this figure on
This
that
figure,
Stoneforge
was
Mystic.
that? Okay.
And a Spell Pierce took it down. And here comes Jace, which is going to be awesome for Lewis.
How many cards? 4 cards.
I mean, in blue control mirrors, Jace is off and everything. And then in the last game, yeah, Roy got a little mana flooded, but those chases do some work. I mean, they dig you deeper, they bounce creatures, you can even serve as a win condition. There's a reason why they're so expensive.
Very true.
Players deep in the tank here, trying to figure out the right course of action, but with time dwindling, we'll see if this match finishes up. All right, Roy drops down to Tectonic Edge after laying... Yep, here comes Inquisition, which will attempt to take that sword out of Roy's hand, but I imagine we'll see it come into play in response, which it does. And he sees the hand of Baneslayer Angel, Day of Judgment. What a hand for Roy there.
Seriously. That hand is just seems like it could be brutal. Now, Tumble Magnet will keep Lewis alive, at least for a while.
Right, and that's card we were talking about earlier. According to Alex Burton-Sheeny, Jerry Thompson might have, he's not totally sure, but Jerry might have cut all of his Day of Judgments for some Tumble Magnets, and this is why. I mean, one card locks down all those sort of Feast and Famine hits.
Well, Tumble Magnet's huge. Tumble Magnet's a card I've been touting like at F&M for weeks and weeks and weeks. I've been playing them. I had a blue-white Eldrazi deck that I was playing like a month ago, and I was running Tumble Magnets and Contagion Clasps in it, but I wasn't going for poison. I was just going for keeping my Tumble Magnets active, proliferating my Sphere of the Suns and Chalices into Oblivion so I could drop Eldrazi down.
Yeah, Proliferate is so good with so many cards. Wizards has done a really good job syncing up how their sets have been released and how they design their sets so that cards like Everflowing Chalice came out before Proliferate came out. You had nice little counter interactions between sets.
Yeah, I definitely like that.
Lewis is going to brainstorm here with that Jace. Here comes Tectonic Edge. Another Tectonic Edge for Lewis.
Takes out another Colonnade.
Yep.
He has firmly learned his lessons from Game 2. Yep. But that hand is pretty sick on Roy's side. I don't know if all the Tectonic Edges in the world can really stop that, but we'll see. We shall see. So Roy drops the Seachrome Coast and passes on back.
Comes into play tap land, meaning that Baneslayer Angel isn't going to enter the fray that turn, but we could easily see it debut here in a second.
Yeah, but obviously his Tumble Magnet activations are quickly running out here. He needs another one quick.
With no
some sort of answer here. I mean, he can keep bouncing it with the Jace, you know. He can bounce the Baneslayer for as many turns. I think he does, what, is that 3? He hasn't used it to bounce or anything, so he's got 3 counters on the Jace.
I think.
There we go. There's a second Tumble Magnet.
Another magnet.
That'll keep him alive. Yeah, he's just holding the fort down here with the 2 Tumble Magnets and a Jace. Seems pretty strong.
I mean, this whole Tumble Magnet's going to be strong, but unless he finds a clasp, they're just going to run out of counters.
It's true. But he's got a couple turns now. He's got some pretty strong defenses here to hold him up.
Roy has some inevitability in a sense because those double Baneslayer Angels are definitely going to serve as threats. Granted, Jace can bounce the Angels, but then Lewis isn't drawing any cards.
Right.
We'll see what happens.
And obviously he can't. He needs to proliferate soon because he can't obviously proliferate a Tumble Magnet with no counters. So he needs to, if he wants to proliferate those, if that's his goal, he needs to keep one of them, keep it on 1 counter so he can just keep using it.
I mean, I think the play that we'll likely see is Tumble Magnet tapping the Stoneforge Mystic, take a Baneslayer Angel hit, and then, see where that goes next turn. All right, Duress will strip out that Day of Judgment. Or there's a Jason Roy's
There we
hand
go.
now. Oh, yeah, that Jace is going down for sure.
There we go. That was a pretty profitable Duress there.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis needs that Jace.
Yeah.
All right, Doomblade on the Baneslayer Angel, so that'll keep his Tumble Magnet okay for another turn. Yeah, I mean, I guess he couldn't really afford to take that Baneslayer Angel hit. It would have targeted the Jace, and... all right.
So there's 5 minutes left in the round, so...
5 minutes left. The player's trying to wrap it up, but Tumble Magnet's certainly not helping the matter. Here comes Baneslayer Angel, number 2. Lewis has double Tumble Magnet.
All right, so Lewis is going to brainstorm. He sees a Bellerin. He sees a Mind Sculptor. And it looks like a Crusader. So, a pretty sweet brainstorm there. Does not bounce the Baneslayer.
All right. Well, that's another tumble magnet.
Wow.
Yeah. Things get a little tumbly. I think is that. Well, hold on. Let's see.
Or
What's
is it the
going on.
Crusader?
Looks like he's choosing between both.
Yeah,
of them.
he's
trying
having
to
a tough
figure it
time
out.
making it up now. Okay.
I mean, the Crusader not so good against Sword of Feast and Famine.
That was a chess move. I didn't take my finger off of it. No, but
So true.
yeah. So he actually chooses the Crusader over the tumble magnet this turn.
If you sign up for casual booster draft number
Do you think
2,
we'll see him run
inside
out
of
the
it,
tumble magnet
scheduled
here, or do you think?
started.
Yep, he runs out of counters on one tumble magnet.
$10 draft.
Tap down the Baneslayer
Booster
Angel.
points to the side
Yeah.
of the
Well, he just
stage.
has to at this point.
And
Right?
now he's choosing if he wants to take a hit from the other ones or spend a counter tapping it. And I think that Jace is going to be too crucial here. I think he needs to tap that Stoneforge Mystic. I mean, the tumble magnet is great, make no mistake about it, but all right. Well, it looks like Roy is attacking Lewis and tapping his mana ahead of time, so he gets the extra bonus out of the Stoneforge
Yep,
Mystic.
yeah, not attacking the Jace. So he gets to keep the Jace alive at least, but
AJ Soccer just walked by, 3-0 as well, kicking both him and Alex Bertoncini, two well-known players, up to a 3-0 record. We'll see if Lewis is also able to take it here. All right, so Squadron Hawk finally makes an appearance for Roy. He badly needed one in the last game, and in this game, he gets all the Hawks he wants. Lewis staring at Swamp, Ichabod Nexus, Jace. I couldn't catch the rest of what was in his hand there. Temple Magnet, we know that's there. Looks like there's a Bellerin. All right, so Bellerin, he puts both Jaces back on top.
sure. Look like a creeping tar pit there. Yep. Or Inkwalk Nexus.
Okay, there's the Contagion class he was looking for, but he's running a little low on lands now. All right, so he's going to serve him with that Crusader, knock Roy down to, well, I guess not knock him down to anything, upping him to 2 poison.
Right. It's funny that one damage tally goes up, one goes down.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So there comes a Contagion class. Probably gonna. Okay, he's gonna. Okay.
All right, so he knocks off that Squadron Hawk,
Right.
and
So he did
So-
not bounce the Jace. Okay.
so he chose not to bounce the Baneslayer Angel. So now
That's what I meant. Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
the option is he's got one counter on that Temple Magnet. Is he going to take a bunch of damage, probably lose his Jace and discarding a card, keep the Temple Magnet around so he can proliferate it next turn? Or is he going to be like, all right, well, I'll use up this last Temple Magnet counter and then play another Temple Magnet next turn and rebuy? What do you think the play is?
I mean, it seems like, I don't know, it almost seems like he has to use the Tumble Magnet because, I mean, he's going to be spending so much mana, proliferating.
Right.
I just didn't think it would really be worth it. And he does. He taps down the Baneslayer Angel.
Yep.
Still going to take a hit on the Jace there.
Okay, so Jace was at 5.
Okay. So he Fate Sealed to protect it. That makes
I
a lot of sense.
thought the dice was upside down and it said 3, but
$10
apparently
draft
not.
number 2, your pot is waiting.
These
And
guys
Michael Larson,
would
$10
know
draft number 2. Please
at least
report
as
to the
well
side
or
of
even
the
better than
stage.
us because the stakes are much higher for them. So what has he got here? All right, so he's cutting the deck there.
Oh. And, all right, still had all these. He's like, all right, I got a full house. What do you got, Lewis? It looks like 3 Hawks. So Roy's board is getting a little cluttered here. It's 3 Hawks, a Baneslayer Angel, and a Stoneforge Mystic wearing a Sword of Feast and Famine. Lewis's board, on the other hand, is Phyrexian Crusader, Contagion Clasp, Tumble Magnet, Jace the Mind Sculptor, and an empty Tumble Magnet on the far left of the screen. There's Lewis for you. Time quickly running out. He's trying to figure out course of action.
Standard players, that is time.
Yep, and
Active
there's
player
the call
fails
for
turn,
time.
Then play 5 additional turns.
You have 1 card? be anything.
Time is running out, both in many ways for Lewis, unfortunately, this game.
Yeah. So Lewis has priority, which means that the 5th turn will be Roy. So Lewis gets this turn and 2 turns after it. Roy will. So they both get a total of 3 turns, including this one. I don't know if either player is going to be able to close out the game in that small of time.
I don't know. Roy has a pretty commanding presence right now with the Baneslayer and the 3 Hogs.
Yeah.
He can't. I mean, he can get in for a. Well, okay. There goes Jace, or there goes Baneslayer back to his hand.
I don't know if Lewis can win necessarily. He might have another Crusader there, which might make the difference. The Crusader could actually do it if that Crusader comes down. But I think at the very least he can probably stall the game out to not lose. So I don't see Lewis losing here.
But Roy has 3 turns to attack, and he's got 6 damage on the board right now.
All right, so Black Sun Zenith for 1 is going to sweep all those Hawks away and put a counter on that Stoneforge Mystic. Interestingly enough, he can proliferate up that Mystic, even though it has potential for black, but I don't know if that's going to matter this game. The time is not there so much. So it's turn 1 of extra turns here. Roy takes the first extra turn.
Well, now Roy doesn't have enough damage on the board to kill him. That's for sure.
Yeah. Lewis had a plan. So it doesn't look like Lewis is going to be able to win this one either. That Crusader is down to a 1-1. I guess he does have the Inkmoth Nexus and the Contagion Clasp, which is an extra 2, so that's 3. If nothing happens, Lewis might be able to deal exactly the 6 poison he needs, but
if he can, that'll be pretty intense.
That's assuming that nothing happens, and Roy is going to do everything in his power to prevent that from occurring.
Right. Roy's been making stuff happen this whole game, so
yeah,
he
exactly.
stops now. He's like still wearing his book bag. It looks like he's still wearing his book bag to the match.
Guess he doesn't want to lose it.
That's one way to prevent it. Yeah.
All right, so it looks like Day of Judgment in Roy's hand. And well, he's thinking about Baneslayer versus Day, or what his options are. Actually, play Secret Coast.
He could just, he could Day and just play for the draw at this point.
Yeah, I think both players have the tools to play for the draw here.
Right.
All right, but neither of them wants to draw. They're like 201.
Yeah.
Don't give me that nonsense.
Absolutely.
Here's Baneslayer Angel. But Lewis has another Temple Magnet to lock it down. And I think with that Baneslayer Angel, Lewis can't win anymore.
Yeah.
So it's going to mean that Lewis is playing for a draw here. And I think after this Temple Magnet comes down, Roy is likely just going to tap that Baneslayer Angel. It's going to make the game a draw. We'll see if either player manages to figure something out. This is turn 2 of extra turns. Lewis has 2 empty Temple Magnets, a Contagion Clasp, and a 1/1 Phyrexian Crusader. Versus Roy's Stoneforge Mystic with a Sword of Feast and Famine and Baneslayer Angel.
Notable that the Stoneforge is actually a 2/3 right now because of a -1/-1 counter.
Yep. Squire, it is not.
It's a mighty Elvish warrior.
Preordained from Lewis, trying to dig into some action.
Well, it's too bad it's too bad we're probably not going to have a clear winner here in our first match of the day, but it was a pretty exciting match so far.
It still has been a great match. Okay, there's Go for the Throat. It still has been a great match. All right, well.
Yeah, well, that could change the complexion of things here pretty quick.
Well, I still think Lewis is going to end up 1 short. He can serve in for 2 poison, drop Roy up to 6 poison, but I don't think he has a way to deal the last poison counter on the next turn, because he can serve in for 2 and potentially proliferate if he has a land. But yeah, this is turn 3 of extra turns.
He could also go if he has a land if he gets a land in a Skitherix, he could haste him up and swing it in.
Sure, but he would need both pieces, and he only has 1 draw step.
True. Does he have Skitherix in hand?
I don't know. He's got Stork Rebuttal, Jace, and Temple Magnet. All right. So he discards Stoic Rebuttal.
Exciting end of the game.
And Roy just flings a Day of Judgment on the table just to make sure. All right. Contagion Clasp goes away for some reason.
He Divine Offering, just to make sure.
I mean, like,
Oh. Well, yeah, that's that. All right, so Lewis shows his hand. He prompts Roy to concede.
I think a draw is very
See if Lewis is in a good position at this point, but I think it's both players' game. Roy's thinking about it. Doesn't look like it's going to happen.
It's like Jason on the board. Yeah.
Give him some
Never hurts to
players
ask.
Bait it out.
That's what I like to. That's how I like to tell my opponents that all the time. Like F&M round 1, I like to be like, you realize you can concede to me at any point.
And I think it's just a draw.
Commander number 2.
Yeah, 1-1-1. Well, there you have it. First round. Long, drawn out game. SCG